I went to Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals last night, and it was lit. Well, at least for the first period.
Kachuk waits, shoots, scores! Side goal by the Florida Panthers on Stuart Skinner. Saved by Skinner. Score! Second of the period, Matthew Kachuk has had it from score! It is now 3-0 Florida in the final minute.
And then it was kind of fun for the last 19 and a half seconds of regulation.
Kachuk with it.
And of course, there was a solid 15 seconds in overtime where 95% of the arena, including myself, thought that the game had ended off the Sam Bennett goal, which actually only ended up hitting the crossbar.
Keeps it alive for Mikkola. Across Bennett. Off the post.
And it's really funny because from our vantage point, and clearly most of the people in the arena, everybody in my section certainly erupted, and it took us seriously 15 seconds to look down and realize they were still playing hockey instead of celebrating, and that the game in fact was not over. But I had a very similar event happen to me at a much smaller scale at a sporting event in my lifetime. It actually reminded me of the very first Dolphins game I ever went to with my dad, well over a decade ago at this point. But I remember that the Dolphins threw a pass in the end zone, and there was a Jets player and a Dolphins player there. And it was actually intercepted by the Jets, but it was so close that my dad thought it was a touchdown, and he started screaming and celebrating, just to realize shortly after that the Dolphins were actually picked off in the end zone. And the funny part about that story is the significance of that Dolphins-Jets game is that it was actually the very last game of Jason Taylor's career. And what do you know, a decade plus later, who was the guy who had the honor of banging the drums before puck drop? Well, it was Jason Taylor, which I love Jason Taylor. He's a legend for sure. But if you're the Florida Panthers and you've yet to win a game this postseason when a Dolphin bangs the drum, what the hell are you doing inviting Jason Taylor? You gotta know better in that spot. I mean, Jaromir Jagr was right there. He was there at the game. So was Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. And I want to give a huge shout out to Game Ops, who was really great all night. But they did not show Swifty and Travis on the Jumbotron once. Not one time did they show them, which I want to personally say thank you to the Game Ops, because I speak for all Panthers fans when I say we don't care. And I did hear on the TV broadcast they showed them 1,000 times, which I'm not surprised because they show them 1,000 times during every Chiefs game too. We don't care about Taylor Swift, so I'm glad they didn't show her. But they did show Jaromir Jagr. He was there. He should have banged the drums. Or at least somebody else. I don't know. In Game 3, they had Bam and UD. You won. You kicked their ass. That's what happens when you actually get some cultured players from a real franchise to bang the drums. But no, they get Miami Dolphins. Anyways, that concludes my rants about the whole drum thing, which, I mean, I'm not really a superstitious guy, but I gotta blame somebody, right? I don't know. It was a very tough loss, of course, but I definitely had a phenomenal time yesterday. For some context, that was literally my first and likely last, because I guess I'm a mush because they lost. But that was my first ever Panthers game that I went to in my entire life. I think I've been to a couple minor league games. They got a team out in Fort Myers, but I've never been to an NHL game. And of course, this team's been good for the last great for the last several years now, as they're working on building this potential dynasty. So I always knew that I needed to go. I should go. I just never made it out for a regular season game. But now they're in the Cup, the legendary Stanley Cup. And I knew that if I never went to one of these Stanley Cup games, then 20 years from now, I would regret it, because the tickets were expensive. You know, I paid $530 for one ticket for the second to last row in the arena. It was not cheap, but like I said, I mean, 20 years from now, am I going to be worried about this $500? No, I'm going to say, hey, I went to a Stanley Cup game. And by the way, there's no bad seats in that arena. Like I said, second to last row, you know, in the upper deck, you could see everything. I mean, we had a great view of all the goals in that first period. It was a great time. We were sitting right there. But like I said, even though it was a tough loss, I'm definitely not taking for granted the gravity of that game and how damn cool it was that I can say I went to a Stanley Cup game. Like, I just think it's very important for sports fans in general, whether you, or I guess South Florida fans now, whether you went to the game or not, to say that you witnessed the team in your championship. Like in South Florida, okay, we can take it for granted. We've seen the Heat make it multiple times. We've seen them win multiple. If you were old enough with the Marlins in the early 2000s, which I was not, but just seen them win, the Hurricanes in the same era. I guess really the Dolphins are the only one that you got to be a real a real OG to have seen them win a championship. I think even my dad was less younger than a teenager at that point. When's the last time the Dolphins won? In the 70s, I think, right? So you had to be real young to see them, but you've had the Marlins, the Hurricanes, the Heat, of course, and now the Florida Panthers. So I don't want to take it for granted because so many other cities cannot even say that they've witnessed their team make a finals, let alone have multiple of their teams in the city win one. So I don't want to take that for granted. It's super cool. I mean, you're watching the NBA Finals now. The Indiana Pacers are 2 games away from a championship. You're seeing how crazy those games are getting, and that's because they've never seen their team win one. Never. Obviously, you've had the Colts and stuff over there, but the Pacers, they've only been once. They lost. So, as cool as it is for them to go, I don't want to take for granted just because we've had more of an opportunity here. I mean, even myself, the last time I was able to go to a finals game in any sports was, I guess it would have been 13 years ago. I went to Game 4 of the 2012 NBA Finals versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. That was a very significant game too. If y'all remember, that's when LeBron had the cramps. He went out the game, came back in the game, hit a monster 3 top the key, and then had to leave the game again with cramps. And yeah, that would have been 2012, so I would have been 14 years old. And I'm sitting here as a 27-year-old grown man. So yeah, it would have been easy for me to say, hey, let me not spend the money on the Panthers. It's all right. I'll go next time. And for all we know, it could be another 10, 20, 30 years before we ever see one of our teams in the championship again. So I just really don't want to take that for granted. As far as the game yesterday, I was very thrilled that at least it was a good one. I was debating going to game 3 or 4. Obviously, I wish I would have picked game 3 with the 6-1 win and all the fighting. That would have been crazy. But, I mean, yesterday, though, if they could have pulled out that damn game, oh, my God, you had Reinhardt tie it with 19 seconds to go. You could have pulled it out in overtime. Oh, that would have been fun, man. But overall, it was a great experience at my first Panthers game. I mean, the game ops is incredible from outside the arena to inside. I mean, they were giving away all kind of free stuff outside the arena. You had they had the Lime sponsorship, vitamin water, pub subs. All of these places were giving away free stuff. Even the security to get in was super nice. I brought a small bag at the Heat game. I've had people spend 10 minutes checking my small bag that only has like my wallet in it. It was like a little satchel bag. And they spent 10 minutes checking an empty bag with a wallet in it. It's so annoying. That's why those lines to get into the Kaseya Center take forever. But at the Panthers game, they were chill. They didn't even look in it. They were like, oh, he's got the right size bag. Go ahead. You're allowed in. And then obviously everything from the presentation to the holographs on the court from the beginning of the game, everything was just top notch. And man, those fans are passionate. You got to be worried a lot of times with these finals games that the true fans kind of get priced out. I know that happened to a lot of people, but at least sitting in the upper deck, yeah, those fans are passionate, and that was just super, super cool to see. I mean, one of the funniest things is when Skinner was still in the game, the goalie for the Oilers, and the whole crowd, every time the Panthers scored, they just start chanting, Skinner, Skinner. Like, you know how humiliating that must be to have the road crowd chant your name in a mocking fashion? Now, he ended up getting benched. The Oilers benched their starting goalie, like after one period. Now, they probably had to. He gave up a total of 9 goals in the last 4 periods, which should never happen. I wish they did not bench him because that kid they brought in actually played pretty damn good. But it was just such a fun environment. And as far as the game itself, oh my, like the first period, Kachuk finally got on the board, had a couple of goals after really struggling for the most part this series. They were able to punch another one in with like 50 seconds left in the first period. I'm thinking, damn, belt to ass, part 2, back-to-back games. You're showing them who's boss. And then they no-showed in the second period. You give up 3 unanswered goals? How do you do that? Now, I'm seriously asking. I'm not a huge hockey guy. A lot of times when I was, my reactions were based off how the people next to me were reacting. If they said it was a bad call, shoot, I agree. It was a bad call. I don't know all the rules of icing and offsides necessarily, but I know enough to enjoy it. Then, of course, in the third period, Oilers took the lead. You gave up 4 unanswered goals to take the lead. And I'm thinking, damn, spend all that much. Selfishly, I'm thinking, you know, obviously as a Panthers fan, I want them to win first and foremost. I don't care if it's a boring game or not. But selfishly, I was thinking, damn, I spent all this money. I had 20 minutes of fun, and the next 40 minutes are about to be garbage. Now, they all made up for it when Reinhart tied it at the end. But yeah, it was a great time. And then obviously in overtime, what a weird moment it was, thinking they won and then looking down and seeing that they didn't win. To me, I love hockey, you know, or I love the Florida Panthers at least. I will continue to watch and support them like I always have for my entire life, although I haven't necessarily been as invested as I am now. I always root for all the South Florida teams, so I've always kept up with them, watched games here and there. I'm just a little bit more invested now, of course, because they're good. But that's why I could never be a true hockey guy, because what kind of sport is it where you can't even tell if they scored or not? Like on TV, half the time I can't tell. And when you're in person, it's very true what I've always heard. You can see a lot better in person. Like even from upper deck, you can see that puck great. You can see everything set up. Just like in a football game where you see guys run routes and plays open up. Same thing in hockey. That part was so cool. But still, like, the puck moves so fast, you can't tell if it hit the back of the net or not. It's like, what kind of sport is that? In basketball, you never have no confusion whether a shot went in or not. I don't know. It was just a bit funny. And once that happened, I was like, all right, what a stupid way to end the game. Like, we all thought it went in, then it didn't go in. At that point, I knew the Panthers were going to lose. I even knew they were going to lose heading into overtime, because if you remember in game 2, the Oilers tied it with about 17 seconds left. But then the Panthers won in overtime. So I had a feeling this game would be about the opposite, and that's exactly what we saw. I remember there was one drunk Oilers fan behind me to the left. That guy was a loser. But then there was a little kid behind me. He was sitting with his dad. He was wearing an Oilers shirt. He must have been 14. And it was cool when the game ended, you know, when Draisaitl got that game-winning goal in overtime. I looked back at the kid, and the dad was hugging the kid, and the kid was, like, smiling. Or he actually had his hands on his face like this, like, oh, my God. And, you know, as much as I'd like to say that I felt really good for that kid in that wholesome moment, man, screw that kid. I wish that kid was sent home crying with tears soaking up his shirt. That's what I wish would have happened. I don't give a damn about that kid. It was a very wholesome moment, though, so that part made me feel pretty good. And listen, I was able to walk away from it in a positive way and say, hey, it was a great game. It was a legendary game. Wild shot to tie at the end. You came up short. I feel like I got my money's worth in terms of entertainment value. And as far as the Panthers, they're the comeback cats, baby. They're the cardiac cats. They've literally been in every possible situation with their backs pressed against the wall in the last, 3 years or so. They've been in this situation before. I have no doubt that their confidence will allow them to get out of it. I think that's pretty much all I got to say for this video, though. Great experience. I will not be going again. I know a lot of Heat fans want me to go to more games because I'm undefeated this year. And in my lifetime, maybe I've been to like 35 Heat games. I've seen them lose maybe like 6. So I have a pretty good record when it comes to Heat games. Panthers games, I will stay away for a while. Also, because I checked the prices for Game 6, $900 to get in the building. Minimum. Before taxes. Oh, God. Ticketmaster. All of them, because it's not just Ticketmaster. They're sponsored by SeatGeek, too. Bunch of scams, these websites. But anyways, that's all I got to say for this video. If you are a Panthers fan, make sure to leave your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts going forward. If you're a Heat fan, got a lot of Kevin Durant news today. Saying that the trade may happen before the draft. That'll mean within the next 12 days we may see a KD trade. I hope so. At least to make it exciting again. I want to be exciting like the Florida Panthers. That's all I want. Well, I also want to see them compete for championships. That's another takeaway. Seeing this Panthers team have final success, I was so happy for them this year and, of course, last year when they won. But my first thought is really, damn, I need this for the Miami Heat. I need it like I need oxygen to breathe. Make sure I like the video and subscribe. I'm on the grind. Hits 8,000 subs. See you on the next video. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city trying to get that dead face. Do it on my own. I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off. Yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.